Hello everybody. We are glad about the opportunity to introduce you briefly our J+J electric part-turn or so-called quarter-turn actuators. I'm going to give you a cross-section through the technical details. What we are going to talk about. J+J actuators for industrial valves requiring less than one turnaround. That means part-turn or quarter-turn. The actuators are designed to be mounted on ball valves, butterfly valves, cork valves, or similar ones. We're going to talk about the standard equipment of those actuators, the applications, options, the mounting, the adjustments, and at last, assembling advices. Here you can see the electric part-turn actuators, a complete family, the different sizes of the housings. J+J electric part-turn actuators are splitted in different series. J2 series, which comes as an H or L type in Model 10 or Model 20 as a slow turn actuator. The J4C series comes as an S type, Model 22-300, or B type, Model 22-300. And we have the RC series in various voltages, but this will be no part of this presentation. Let's start with the J2 series with the Model 10. The Model 10, as you can see here, has a hand lever with a position indicator on the top. The Model 10 is currently our smallest actuator, comes in L type for 24 volt AC DC or SH type for 85 to 240 volt AC DC. The letters L or H indicate the different fields of voltage. I'll give you a short information about the technical specifications. Model 10 has 10 Newton meter working torque, and starting torque, or also called breakaway torque, is 12 Newton meters. For the mounting you have different flanges. A double flange in the standard is for FO3 and FO5, or optional it's possible in FO4. The output stem intake is star-like and always 14 mm. The details for Model 10, the output or valve stem interface is according to 5-11, FO3, FO5, as I already said. 40 mm star-like square input. Why we use star-like intakes? The reason is clear. The stem of the valves sometimes are in line or sometimes are 45 degrees. The standard equipment of Model 10. It has a manual override, extra limit switches, means volt-free contacts for position confirmation, one torque limiter to protect the actuator, included heater, and a wide voltage range in the two different fields L or H. But for the smallest one there are no options, no further options available. Model 20 as a slow turn solution comes as an L type or H type. The working time is 140 seconds for 90 degrees. It's for slow opening or slow closing purposes to maybe avoid pressure surges. Now we're coming to our latest invention, the J4 series, multi-voltage and long-life brushless motors. An overview about the technical details for the J4C series. The 4C series consists of the Model 20, with 20 Newton meter, the Model 35, 55, 85, 140 and 300. That always means that the working torque is according to the model number. 20 Newton meter for S20, 35 Newton meter for S35 and so on. The starting torque is much higher always. As for Model 20 is 25 Newton meters, for Model 35 is 38 Newton meters, and so on. So for Model 300 we have a starting torque of 350 Newton meters. The mounting flange is according to the torques. We have FO3, FO4, FO5 for the Model 20 and 35. Optional is possible to have the mounting flange in FO7. The standard square intake or stem intake, also star-like like in Model 10, is 14 mm. Optional is possible in 9 mm or 11 mm, and also optional possible stem intake as a 2-flat or double D in 11 to 16 mm. In Model 85 and also 55 we have FO5, FO7. Standard stem intake is 17 mm and optional available is 14 or 22 mm square. Also WD 2 flat 11 to 16 and 17 to 22 millimeters. For the two biggest ones, 140, 300 Newton meter, we have F07, F10 or optional F12. From the mechanical part now to the electrical part, the power supply, the range of voltages in the J4 series has some specialities. The S-type is for 24 volt up to 240 volt AC and 24 volt up to 135 volt DC. The B-type is for 12 volt AC and DC. Some standard equipment. A manual override by hand wheel. That means the hand wheel has access to the gear train, and to move the valve is much easier than with a lever. We have the two extra limit switches, volt-free contacts for position confirmation, an electronic torque limiter, an included heater, has a status LED. The protection grade is IP67. There's a dome position indicator, protected by the dome, and we have electric connectors. Coming to the status LED. The status LED, the flashing frequency and the color. For an open-close actuator, you can see the LED doesn't light without any power supply, clear. If the actuator is in open position, you see a continuous green light. If the actuator is in closed position, you can see a continuous red light. If the actuator is in a stop position, maybe for a 3-point positioning, it's violet. The actuator is turning to open direction. You can see the LED blinking between short yellow and longer green. Short yellow, longer green. Short yellow, longer green. Actuator is turning in closed position. The LED lights short yellow, long red, short yellow, long red. The torque limiter is active in open direction. It's green, and an interruption. It's green and an interruption, and so on. The torque limiter is active into closed position, into closed direction. Is red, interruption, red, interruption, red, and so on. If the manual override is active and the actuator is not possible to turn the valve into the one or other direction, means the motor is stopped, we have a yellow blinking. If the actuator is fitted with a BSR battery pack, we have additional ones. The actuator without power supply, BSR into normally open direction is active. We have the green light and a long interruption, and after a while again a green light. Actuator without power supply, BSR is normally close active. We have the same with the red light. If there is a battery protection or it needs to be recharged, we have the yellow blinking. If the actuator has an option DPS positioning system, we have other colors. Actuator is in target position. We have blue light, continuous blue light. If the actuator is turning into open direction, we have blue and longer green, blue, longer green. Actuator is turning into closed direction, we have the same with blue and red. Actuator is turning without input signal, we have blue, same time interruption, blue, same time interruption, and so on. Input signal is too high, so out of the range, more than 20 milliampere or more than 10 volt, we have a blue and a short bright blue blinking with interruptions in the same time between. If the actuator is in self-adjustment modus, we have red, blue, green, blue, red, blue, green. The torque limiter is active in open direction. We have green, interruption, green. Torque limiter active in closed direction, we have red, interruption, red. Manual override active, motor was stepped, it's the same as before, we have yellow, interruption, yellow. If the DPS additionally has a BSR battery pack, the actuator without power supply would show a green light, short green light, when the battery pack is to normally open active. For normally close active, it would be red. And if there's a battery protection and it needs to be recharged, we have the yellow blinking. Now we are coming to the actuator part description. The hand wheel on the top, the position indicator protected by the dome. We have the wiring diagram and the type label, the valve interface, and a 6-screw for tight enclosure. The type label in details. You can see the model number and the series, the voltage range, the working time for 90 degrees, the factory adjusted working angle, the temperature range. Regarding the temperature range, we also have to talk about the included heater. We have a heating resistor included, which offers around about 4 watt heating. The heater cares for the interior temperature around 35 degrees at minimum outside temperature of minus 20 degrees. The heater can optionally be deactivated if the installation carries no risk of condensation inside. Coming to the deactivation of the heater. The actuator includes a jumper, which is called Serialnumber, where you can select if the heating works or not. The jumper on means heater is active. Jumper in off position means heater is off. The heater can be deactivated using the Serialnumber jumper very easily. An activated heater is standard when you receive the actuator. For what it's in heater for. All actuators working under widely fluctuating temperature ranges bearing risks of inside condensation. Outdoor, underfloor, cooling pipes and so on, also in the desert. The medium maybe in a cooling pipe is minus 20 degrees and the ambience is 20 or 30 degrees. This would mean that there will be condensation in the housing, even if the enclosure is very tight. Use mounting brackets and adapters for temperature applications. If the temperature difference between the medium environment is too large, brackets and adapters must or should be used to dissipate the temperature. Coming back to the type label, the duty, 75% in this case. Regarding the duty, we have a look at Model 20. The Model 20, as all the complete series, offers 75% duty. That means we have 75% duty, 25% break. The assessment period we are looking on is 10 minutes, means 600 seconds. If we now want to calculate how much cycles or how much open-close cycles the actuator can do in an hour, we have to calculate with the working time of the actuator, means 9 seconds. The break would be 2 seconds, the break, and the working time 11.25 seconds we have to calculate with. The maximum 90 degree swivel angle, 10 minutes, is 53, and the maximum 90 degree swivels in 1 hour is 160 cycles open and close. If we're talking about duty cycles, we also have to take a look on the requirements according to the European norm. The European norm splits the field of actuators into 2, means one field up to 125 Newton meters, the second field from 126 Newton meters to 1000 Newton meters. That is what we are looking on. We have different classifications. The class R means only open close. The class B means positioning. The class C modulation, and the class D continuous modulation. For the class R, the requirement for the smaller ones is 15 movements an hour. For class B, positioning is 120 starts in an hour. Class C modulation is 1200 starts an hour, and class D, continuous modulation, is 3600 starts an hour. For the bigger ones is a little less, is 10 movements an hour, 60 starts an hour for class B positioning, for class C modulation 600 starts an hour, and for class D continuous modulation 1800 starts an hour. If we talk about duty, we also have a look on the lifetime of actuators and the lifetime requirements according to the norm. Also here we have the splitted field into 2, 125 Newton meters or 126 Newton meters up to 1000 Newton meters. For class R, open close actuators, the requirement is 10,000 open close cycles, means 20,000 movements. For class B, positioning is the same. For class C modulation, the requirement is 1,800,000 starts, and for class D, continuous modulation is 10 million starts. For the bigger ones, 126 Newton meters to 1000 Newton meters is very similar. For open-close, 10,000. For Class B positioning is 10,000 as well. And for Class C modulation, it's 1.2 million starts. And for Class D continuous modulation is 10 million starts. Class A and B, the requirement is to apply 100% of the torque only on 5% of the path of 90 degrees, and otherwise 30% of the torque. Class C and D, the requirement is 30% nominal torque on a minimum step of 1 degree. These requirements have nothing to do with the lifetime of the valve. The actuator will normally survive the valve. The mechanical stress, like overload, could shorten the lifetime. For that reason, J+J actuators are counting the torque limiter activities. Now we're coming to the type label, speaking about IP protection. The IP protection degree means in the first number protection against dust or foreign bodies, and in the second number is a protection against humidity. Our actuators are according IP65 for Model 10 and IP67 for Model 20 up to 300. IP67 means temporary floated. As you can see by the chart, we have water in IP65 from one side or from different sides, which is not overfloating the unit. And for IP67 is shortly overfloating the complete unit. And back to the type label. We are wearing a serial number on each actuator, which offers the possibility to store the complete history of each one actuator. The number 2 and 3 indicates the year of the production, number 4 and 5 the month of the production. The rest of the numbers is counting the quantity. J+J stores all the information for warranty and tomorrow back to the production. In case of any warranty claims or any doubts, we have the possibilities to see who has made the actuator, when was the production, and all the circumstances around. The uniqueness of an actuator is ensured by the serial number. The history of the actuator can also be tracked by our customers using a database. Let's have a look on the mounting flanges according ISO 5211. The multi-flange plate offers the solution using FO3 and FO5 in one placement, and through unfixing the plate it is possible to turn the plate 45 degrees for using FO4. That means for Model 20 and 35. FO3, FO4, FO5 is possible, and optionally FO7. The double flange on the other models is FO5 and FO7 for Model 55 and 85. And for Model 140 and 300 is FO7 and F10. Optional available F12 for the bigger ones. Let's have a look on the standard connectors. The left light gray one is a power connector for open and close. And the right side, the smaller one, the black one, is for connecting the extra limit switches, means the volt-free contacts for position confirmation. What means volt-free contact? That means it's independent from the inner circuit. For the manual operation, we have a changeover lever for automatic or manual mode. And to move the valve, you have to turn to the left or the right, the upper hand wheel. The switch should be operated with a slight turn of the hand wheel or the hand lever in the same time for synchronization of the gear train, which is not automatically. Let's have a look on the limit switches. Every J+J actuator is equipped with 4 micro switches, 2 for the motor stop and 2 extra volt-free limit switches. As you can see by the picture, the 4 switches are in the center of the actuator, and there are 4 cams to press the micro switches. These micro switches are adjustable, or not the switches, the cams are adjustable, and the tool to do that is included. Let's talk about the motor stop switches. 2 micro switches to stop the motor at the end of the strokeways. The strokeways you can adjust through the cams, also with the included tool. The motor stop open and the motor stop close according to the indication on the picture. The position information, the 2 volt-free contact micro switches or extra limit switches for signalization are located upside for open and the second one for close. It is important that the extra limit switches are reached by the cams just before the arrival to the motor stop. Where Now coming to the equipments. First of all, the torque protection, the limiter. Protecting the actuator gear against mechanical damage through overload as well as the valve stem. Overload can be in event of blockade through massive parts or heavy torques of the valve. The signalization is by LED. You can see the red light there. Now we're coming to the warning sticker. By the pictures you can see where the warning stickers are located depending on the different sizes of actuators. The warning sticker gives information to the user in the installation what are the most important facts. The special equipment fitted to the standard actuator. The special equipment is indicated as well on the type label. Now we're coming to the BSR battery pack. The standard actuator with integrated BSR battery safety pack. By the picture you can see the green one is the battery. You can see the circuit board for the control, and everything is stored in one plug-and-play kit package. Now we're coming to the BSR battery pack, which is includable into the actuators. So the reason to use the BSR battery pack is very clear. We're talking about electric actuators in case of power failure, power loss. You have the fact that the actuator can't move. That means it stops immediately in event of a power failure. And this, of course, can damage us in the installation. So for that reason, we have two different reactions. One is normally close, means in case of power loss, the actuator will close the valve. Maybe a tank can no further be filled. Or normally open, that means in case of power loss, the actuator will open. You can see by the picture, a tank will be filled. This could be very important for fire distinguishing systems. That means it's always important having a look on the reaction chains in the installation, what shall be done in case of a power loss. It's possible to preset the function normally close or normally open for the battery pack fitted actuators. Again, we have a jumper. In this case, it is called jumper cell DIN. The jumper connected means normally close. Normally closed is the actuator will close in event of a power loss. Or the second version, normally open. The jumper is not connected. The actuator will open in case of a power loss. Please take care that the function is according to the needs in the installation. Functionality tests should be foreseen in the plant's manual. J4 electric actuators can be fitted with a digital positioning system. This is included in a kit with this optional available. Here you can see how the connection of the positioner is done. There is an additional connector in the middle. We have again the light gray connector on the left side for the power. We have on the right side the small black one for the extra limit switches, and in the center we have the connector for the control signal. The control signal 1 to 10 volt or 4 to 20 milliampere or 0 to 10 volt or 0 to 20 milliampere, and the connector offers input as well as output. On this chart you can see the DPS signal presetting. According to the installation need, the positioner could be preset for the different signals and reactions. Normally close means that no signal or the minimum signal is closed, and normally open means the opposite. If needed, the actuator could also be ordered as a stay put execution. That means if configuration is 4 to 20 milliampere or 1 to 10 volt, the actuator rests in the last position in case of signal loss. It's also possible to combine BSR and DPS in one actuator. The actuator with a DPS in this case is working as a normal actuator in response to the incoming positioning signal. In case of power loss, the actuator will immediately drive to the preset position, normally close or normally open. Its behavior is independent in case of signal loss and follows the earlier explained presettings. Another option is J+J actuators with an integrated positioner. The positioner offers a possibility to follow the position of the actuator mirrored by resistance. The connector for the potentiometer is similar to the DPS connector, located in the middle, offers the output signal, and as you can see by the wiring, the potentiometer offers an increasing and decreasing signal in the same time. Another option is 3 positions for the control of 3-way valves L or T port. There are many positions possible and is to be checked if two positions, 090 degrees or 180 degrees, or three positions are necessary to meet the requirements. J4C, the three position actuators, you can see the wiring diagram here, 090, 180 degrees. The three positions are free adjustable, like 090 to 170 degrees or whatever. Currently there are only two limit switches possible if you use the three position. The wiring diagram shows you how to connect. Pin 1 always is neutral or minus. If you connect pin 2 with plus or with a phase, the actuator moves to 0. If you connect pin 2 and pin 3 with plus or phase, the actuator moves to 90 degrees. And if you connect pin 3 with plus or phase, the actuator moves to 180 degrees. Now I want to show you the one-point connection, normally open or normally close. The explanation for one-point continuous phase connection. Normally open version means pin 3 is always connected, the valve is open. If pin 2 is switched, the actuator will close. Normally close means pin 2 is always connected and the valve is closed. If pin 3 is switched, the actuator will open. We also offer one-point continuous phase reversed. This is to replace maybe Valve actuators where open and close is interchanged against J+J standard. So if you want to replace a Valve actuator, you should better use this solution. Now I'm going to give you some assembling advices. Actuator to valve and actuator with valve into the installation. It is important to see the kind of the valve and the torque requirements, the requirements to open, to close, or the torque curve which needs the valve. You have to think about the safety requirements for the torque, of course, in the application and the environment in the application. And also important how to fit the actuator on the valve, the kind of the stem, the mounting flange, and also the position in the plant. Electronic influences, electromagnetic compatibility is very important. Think about no overhead installation if not absolutely necessary. And have a look on the valve. The stem should not be longer than the intake in the actuator, otherwise you would damage maybe the actuator or increase the torque. The thread's intake length are also very impossible. For the different models we have different intake lengths. Mainly important is for model 10, for model 20 and for model 35 to respect these shorter length, because it's only 9 mm. Longer screws would damage the actuator through lifting the flange plate. Coming to a final view. Actuator and valve are aligned and can be easily joined together. That means that the interfaces fit easily together. Important is that the open and closed positions are equal to each other, as well as open and closed positions are technically correct for the installation. Important for ball valves is that the ball hole position is correct and covers the seat when open. On the other side, for butterfly valves, it's important that the position does not stress the liner when completely closed. That means 90 degrees closing often is too much. Better is some degrees less. The manual override can move the valve, should move the valve. If the torque is too high, it wouldn't. All electronic questions are under clarification by authorized electronical engineers or staff. Safety advisements are a part of use of the electric partturn actuators. So the plans manual refers correctly to the actuators' functions. The end. Thanks for joining us.